Hi, have you ever thought of why men and women seems to learn differently? And you are wondering what are the reasons behind it? Don't worry, we got you because in this video, we are going to explain how it happens. So without further ado, let's get started.
Hello, I am Clarence Prodamali, metric number 74511. Here I want to talk about definition of learning. The learning process may take place started right from the moment of an individual's birth and continuing on until death. Two things that are necessary for learning to happen. First is the existence in the setting of a stimulus, and second is the innate provisions like emotional and instinctual disposition. A person keeps on learning across all the stages of life by constructing or reconstructing experiences under the influence of emotional and instinctual disposition. Learning is commonly characteristically by psychologists as relatively permanent behavioral changes that occur as a result of experience. Three essential elements of learning are highlighted by this concept of learning. First is a behavioral improvement, which can be positive or worse, requires learning. Second, as a product of practice and experience, this behavioral modification should take place. Changes due to maturity or progression should not be viewed as learning. And third, this change in behavior must be relatively lasting and last long enough for a relatively long time. There are three founders that describe the definition of learning by their own perspective, which are John B. Watson, Gales, and E. A. Peale. John B. Watson is considered to be the founder of the behavioral school of thought, which gained popularity and acceptability in the first half of the 20th century. He is the first thinker to show that behavioral changes take place as a result of learning. Gales described learning as the shift in behavior that occurs as a result of both experience and training. Lastly, learning can be defined according to E. A. Peale as a change in the person that takes place as a result of the change in the environment.
Statistics on different gender performance in education. Difference in achievement between female and male students often termed the gender gap. Evidence of the statistics on different gender performance in education can be shown by analyzing trends in English, mathematics, science, and engineering technology knowledge in data from the Malaysian Ministry of Education.
In the first data, we can see the percentage of gender achievement in SPM English in 1996 to 2003.
From the data, we can see the percentage of gender achievement for female in SPM English is higher than the male from 1996 to 2003.
And for the second data, we can see the percentage of gender achievement in SPM Mathematics in 1996 to 2003.
In this statistic, we can see the percentage of achievement for the female is higher than the male in SPM Mathematics in 1996 to 2003.
For the third data, we can see the percentage of gender achievement in SPM Science in 1996 to 2003.
In this statistic, we can see the percentage of achievement for the female also higher in SPM Science in 1996 to 2003.
For the fourth data, we can see the percentage of gender achievement in SPM Engineering Technology in 1996 to 2002.
In this statistic, we can see the male students have the higher percentage in engineering technology educations, and the female students do not perform as well in a technical subject.
From the four data, we can see the female students are more prepared to work and more focused. They have better reading skills and prepare better for examination. The four statistics of percentage in different gender achievement show us the female students are more successful academically and thereby confirming finding of research conducted by the other developing countries.
Hi, I am Jackson 10 and my matrix number is 75098. Since males and females learn differently, I am going to talk about single-sex education, as it is an education system that supports the differences of learning for male and female. Single-sex education, also known as single-gender education and gender-isolated education, is the practice of conducting education with male and female students attending separate classes, buildings, or schools. Here in Malaysia, the most common one is the separate schools. The practice of single-sex schooling was common before the 20th century, particularly in secondary and higher education. It is practiced in many parts of the world, especially in many Muslim majority countries like Malaysia, Brunei, and Indonesia. There are other countries practice it as well, like Australia, UK, Singapore, South Korea, and South Africa. Single-sex education primarily conducted in private schools, but it is opposite in the Muslim majority countries. The ideal of single-sex education range from religious idea of sex segregation to beliefs that the sexes learn and behave differently. As such, they thrive in a single-sex environment. Advocates of single-sex education emphasize that there are persistent gender differences in how male and female learn and behave in educational setting, and that such differences merit educating them separately. That is how the single-sex education was formed. Furthermore, male and female brain differences favor the implementation of gender-specific teaching methods. In addition, advocates of single-sex education emphasize that by segregating the gender, students don't become distracted by other genders' action in the classroom. Educationally, single-sex school seems to be better for female to do well at traditionally male subjects like chemistry and physics, and vice versa for the male student. As such, single-sex schools improve students' performance and reduce gender stereotypes. There are a lot of pros and cons of the single-sex education that will be discussed later on by another presenter. Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Daphne Baon David, matrix number 74546, and I'm going to talk about the difference between the male and the female brain. Do male and female brain actually differ? Well, scientists have studied 4 primary areas of differences in male and female brain, which are processing, chemistry, structure, and activity. Male brains use up 7 times more gray matter for activity, whereas female brains use up 10 times more white matter. Gray matter areas of the brain are localized. When the person is doing a task, gray matter translates into a kind of tunnel vision. As we all know, majority of males enjoy their leisure time playing games. When they are deeply engaged in a task or a game, they may not display much attention to other individuals or the environment. White matter is the networking grid that connects the brain's gray matter and other processing centers with one another. This fundamental difference in brain processing is probably one explanation why you may have noticed that females seem to switch between tasks more easily than males do. The difference between the gray and white matter may explain why women are great multitaskers in adulthood, while men excel in highly task-focused projects. Male and female brains process the same neurochemicals but to different degrees and through gender-specific body-brain connections. Some dominant neurochemicals are serotonin, which among other things help us sit still, testosterone, our sex and aggression chemical, estrogen, a female growth and reproductive chemical, and oxytocin, a bonding relationship chemical. Partly, on average, due to the differences in the development of these substances, males appear to be less able to sit still than females, and they tend to be physically impulsive and aggressive. In addition, males process less of the chemical oxytocin that binds than females. A major takeaway from this is recognizing that males often need different stress relief techniques than females. There are a number of structural elements in the human brain differ between males and females in terms of the actual parts of the brain, the way they are built, size, and mass. Females often have a larger hippocampus which acts as the human memory center. They also have a higher density of neural connections in the hippocampus, and this is shown whereby females tend to have or consume more sensory and emotional data than men do. If you note your observation of male and female over the next few months, you will find that female appear to sense a lot more about their environment throughout their day, and they maintain that sensory data a lot more than men do. During the growth of both males and females in the womb, the male and female brain's left and right hemisphere are not made up in the same way. For example, on both sides of the brain, females tend to have verbal centers, whereas males tend to only have left hemisphere verbal centers. This is a significant difference. Explains a lot why females tend to use a lot more words when conversing with people. Not only do men have less verbal centers, they also have less relations between their word centers and their emotions or memories. The female brain tend to have more natural blood flow throughout the brain at any given moment due to the more white matter processing. And because there are more blood flow in the portion of the brain called cingulate gyrus, emotional memories are frequently ruminated on and revisited more than the male brain. Males, on the other hand, after reflecting on an emotive memory, they analyze and then move on to the next task. During this process, they can opt to change direction and do something active and unrelated to emotions rather than evaluate their feelings at all. This results in observers wrongly assume that males avoid feelings in comparison to female, and they also assume that males move to problem solving way too quickly. Understanding gender differences from a neurological perspective not only opens the door for a greater appreciation for different genders, but it also calls into question on how we educate, parent, and support our children from a younger age. This concludes my presentation on this topic. Thank you. Now let's move on to the next presenter.
Kids go to school to get an education, but is there an equality of education in schools today? Without thinking about it, anyone would say, men and women get the same education because this is 20th century. But in reality, both men and women learn in different ways. In attention aspect, male students require more attention from their teachers and their peers, while female students are more self-conscious, which require less attention. The more attention male students receive from their teachers will lead them to get a better education compared to female students because females are more at unease with themselves.
In general, teachers interact with male students more often compared to female students by a margin of 10 to 30% depending on the grade level of the students and the personality of the teacher. This can be proven by the fact of male students are speaking up more often in discussion, then the teachers may be forced to pay more attention to them. Another possibility is that some teachers will believe that male students are more likely to trouble, so they will engage with them more often to keep them focused on the task at hand.
Despite the willingness of most teachers to be fair towards all students, it turned out that they often distribute praise and criticism differently towards male and female students. The trend is to compliment male students more than female students for displaying knowledge correctly, but to criticize female students more than male students for displaying knowledge incorrectly.
Other type of response by the teacher towards student is by what teachers tend to overlook. Male students tend to overlook wrong answers, while female students tend to overlook right answers. The effect, which is possibly unintended, is a tendency to make male students' knowledge seems more important and themselves more capable. The content objective is total opposite.
a tendency to make girls' expertise less apparent and girls less capable. Teachers' praise in the classroom is more likely to be extended to the good behavior of female students, regardless of their importance to the subjects or lesson at hand. Teachers appear to criticize male students for bad or inappropriate behavior. This difference also can be stated in terms of what teachers overlook. With female students, teachers prefer to disregard behavior that is not appropriate, but with male students, they tend to neglect behavior that is appropriate. In other words, female students appear more good than they actually should be compared to male students, and also to make their goodness seems more important than their intellectual integrity.
Hello, my name is Edita LJ Gilchrist Joseph, matrix number 74634.
Here, I will explain what are the benefits and disadvantages of single-sex school.
Here are the benefits of single-sex school.
The first benefit of single-sex school is a more relaxing environment. Many single-sex schools can be more relaxing for boys and girls as they don't have social pressure to worry about, such as impressing the opposite gender. They can be themselves in classroom and can speak out openly and honestly. They will be more willing to take risks because they won't have to worry about saving face in front of the opposite gender. Secondly, lesser clique. They do not have to worry about being seen as popular or impressing others, which allow them to focus on their study and forge good friendship with others. For example, boys in school don't feel the pressure of appearing cool in front of girls is reduced, and hence children tend to be more generous toward their peers and less prone to forming groups that exclude others. The third benefit is a more specific curriculum. Single-sex classroom give the teacher an opportunity to tailor the curriculum. They can design the curriculum in a way that students connect with it. For example, at an all-girls school, the teacher can read books which are of more interest to girls and speak more about their concern. On the other hand, in an all-boys school, the teacher can teach story of boy coming of age. Lastly, breaking gender stereotype. Students in single-sex school can be interested or show interest in unconventional subject without embarrassment. In a boys' school, male dancer, singer, or author can be invited to speak of their art, and boys can ask questions without feeling shy as they would be in a co-ed school. In a girls' school, female athletes and engineers can come and freely give talk where girls can show interest without being branded as too nerdy or tomboyish.
If there is so many pros of single-sex school, there has to be a few cons as well. Here are the disadvantages of single-sex school.
First disadvantage of single-sex school is less socializing. They may miss out on learning how to socialize with the opposite gender, which can lead them to feel shy or uncomfortable meeting their counterpart outside school. They don't always know how to react as they are unfamiliar with the environment. Secondly is less positive influence. The gender miss out on the opportunity to positively influence each others. Boy matures lower and miss out on girl positively affecting them while growing up. less exposure. Co-ed schools give opportunities for girls and boys to become true friends with each other and create a foundation for supportive relationship with the opposite sex. Opportunities like these are not available in single-sex schools. Hard to assimilate in the future. Since single-sex schools offer a safer environment, students might find it hard to adjust to a mixed-gender society in the future. They might not know how to handle the opposite sex and may experience something akin to a culture shock when they go out into the world on their own.
In conclusion, the learning process is continuous and starts from the time of birth until death by constructing or reconstructing experience under the influence of emotional and sexual devotion. A person continues to learn across all stages of life. One of the first things to prove the behavior changes occur as a result of learning is John B. Watson. Evidence of statistics on gender-based success in education can be shown by examining pattern in knowledge of English, mathematics, science, and engineering technology. The statistics suggest that trained female teachers are more academically successful. Female students are more prepared for engineering and are more focused. They have better skill in reading and are better equipped for examination. The practice of conducting education with male and female students attending separate classes, building or school is single-sex education. In many parts of the world, especially in many Muslim-majority countries, it practices single-sex education. Advocates say it's better for women to do well. They subject traditional male. In general, scientists study for main area for different male and female. 30% more grammar is used by male for activities, whereas female brain is used in time or either processing the different between white matter may explain why woman is other half are great. The same neurochemical are processed by a male and female brain but different degree and to gender specific function impact on average. Male appear to be less able to see than female because the difference in development of this substance. The birth of the child is more likely to be explained to the good conduct of female students. Male students have to overlap about the answer. It is possible to define single-gender education as an education administered where its environment consists of only one gender while education happens. In an environment that has members of the same gender, same children thrive. Some children are better with a court as they do not have social pressure to worry about. Single-sex school can be more relaxing for boys and girls. In classroom, they can be themselves and can speak openly and honestly because they won't have to worry. They'll be more willing to take risks. They do not have to worry about being seen as boys that are popular or impressive without embarrassment. Studying in single-sex school can be interesting and unconventional subject or show interest. Male dancers, singers, and authors can be invited to speak about their art at a boys' school without being